Hi, and welcome to this installment of Frank and Mary here in Westborough. If you haven't seen the show before, my name is Art Bergeron. My day job is as an elder law attorney at Myrick O'Connell. Right here in Westborough, there are 20 of us, the best kept secret in Westborough. But this is not about elder law. This is about my friends Frank and Mary. If you've seen one of my presentations, which are actually kindly shown here on Westborough Cable, you've heard about my friends Frank and Mary and their goal in life, which is to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. And if you're in Westborough, that means you want to stay right here. So this show is about the people you need to know and the programs you need to know about if you want to stay right here happy in Westborough. With me, my wonderful co-host, Shelby Marshall, who's been doing this. We've been doing this like a long time, like
we're getting old
years.
Together.
Yes, we're aging in place right here. And because she always finds these great guests, but this week, unbelievable. We've been trying to get this person for ages. Finally, she showed up. No, it isn't Santa Claus. So I'm going to allow Shelby to introduce our special guest.
So today's special guest is none other than the general manager of Westborough TV, the Karen Henderson.
Yay!
Saying hello.
There she is. This is
Right
not.
here.
There I am.
This isn't a cutout. This is like in the flesh.
There we go.
We actually
This is
had
in the
her
flesh.
walk in so you wouldn't think it was a
Right.
cutout. Like
That's
someone
right.
just propped up.
No, it's really
Exactly
me.
right.
My agent
This is-
kept telling me to wait for NBC
Yeah.
or CBS, and
And you're still
and then
waiting.
Westborough TV came up and
Popped
your
up.
show, and here I am.
So
Well,
kind of
our-
in the meantime. This is like in the meantime.
Right. And our ratings have been high, but now, I mean, this is like Santa rocketing off the ground
That's
and
right.
into the sky.
I can
That's
only
right.
imagine.
That's
Yeah.
right. This is really exciting. So thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having
And
me.
thank you for all of the hospitality that you've given us during all of this time and actually allowed us to kind of create. No, you kind of created, I think, we're just the talent, right? Right? There's really, I think, a show that I think has helped a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think, and the fact that you were willing to put it on, kind of a lot during COVID, and we were really able to give people literally kind of weekly updates on issues, which I think helped a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely it has. And people look forward to it now. They're like, I wait for your show. How come you guys
How
took
come-
a little break?
What
What
happened
happened?
to the show?
So,
Right,
Oh, no.
right. I had
Oh,
somebody
no.
refer to it as Frank and Shelby the other day. It's like, well, it's Arthur and Shelby, it's Frank
well,
and
they think
Mary.
we're Frank. They actually, someone said to me, so
Yeah.
you're Mary and he's Frank. I said, well, no, we're like our actual own selves. And
That's right.
But that's okay.
That's
Whoever
But
it
I
is.
thank you for doing the show for this. Again, it's been a couple of years, few years maybe, but certainly during the pandemic, almost weekly, I think we were
Yeah.
putting the show out,
Yeah.
and a really big help to people and really informative, and I think something that people looked forward to, whether it was insight from the Board of Health or from Christy Williams or things that were going on in town. So so appreciative of the work you've done to get good guests on here and make a great show.
And by the way, as a result, I think for a lot of folks, having them come to appreciate the crucial role that cable plays here, right? That it is the one, whenever I'm talking to folks about cable, and I know you've got contract negotiations coming up now, and this is always the issue. Cable is the future of democracy. Democracy used to be built on print media because it's built on real facts, and print media is gone. And if we don't have local cable, there won't be a local kind of a functioning democracy because you'll never find out what the facts are.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, that was, it's a big part of what we do, right? So we talk about local cable being PEG. So it's public, education, and government. So we cover things in those three arenas, kind of to your point right now, talking about the government side of things. Just so important. I've said it to people before, but having sat on a committee for a number of years, a school committee in town, I used to say to people, like, you're just really happy, whether you're watching it or not, really happy that someone is there and recording it so that there is that transparency piece, that you can go back and see it, that people are seeing it live, that people can go back to reference it. And certainly, our viewership in that regard, you see some of the numbers from these meetings. We have hundreds of people who are tuning in. And again, the pandemic has kind of highlighted how critical it is. There's information people really need. And I think people have become much more engaged in town, having that access, right out of the gate.
And really, and expecting it. I mean, what's interesting is that, Westborough TV's been around for how many years now?
For a long time, since
A long time.
the 90s.
Okay.
Westborough TV itself was incorporated into a nonprofit in 2004.
Okay.
But there was certainly local access, Greater Media Cable, and all long before
Okay,
that.
Right. So doing the work that's doing today, but certainly now, in a much more expanded role, which we'll talk about. But it really, I'm on or I'm on committees or following committees, and I'll hear on Facebook or otherwise, why isn't this on Westborough TV? Like an expectation, really, that why isn't it being covered? Because we want to watch the meeting. Because meeting minutes are great, but they're really a snapshot, very high level. What happened when you watch a meeting, you see the nuances of conversation. You
Right.
see maybe the hesitation in a response. You hear a question asked, so you feel like, well, I'm not sure if it was fully answered. I want more information. There's a lot that, when you're able to capture that, live, or certainly, watch it after the fact. So the work of Westborough TV cannot be understated.
Right. And I think, once again, a lot of people came to appreciate it as a result of COVID, because there wasn't the option
Yeah.
of either you're going to the meeting or you're
Right.
not. You never would have thought of the third option, right?
And
But
it's
you
an
actually
effort.
watch it on cable.
Yeah, it's an effort. Who really wants to go?
Go to the meeting.
Leave your house at 6:00 to go watch an amazing select board
Right.
and all of their appointment votes. You
And
really want to be able to, and you don't know when an agenda item is really going to come on. So Westborough TV is there. You kind of watch the replay, or you can watch it live. Certainly for many of the meetings, and you are right there. So I think that is one of the good outfalls of COVID, is that the ability to Zoom people in and tape those meetings and to bring things kind of to folks where they are.
Right. And I think that it's one of the things that has been a challenge for us, and probably a permanent challenge, is we went from, so if we just stick with the government piece, we went from recording those meetings each week to and broadcasting them on TV, to now when we go to those meetings, we are broadcasting them and they are going to TV directly, excuse me, and they are also going out online to YouTube, because that's become an expectation. So they're
Because
broadcasting.
It's become an expectation.
They're broadcasting to both places, so people can kind of, at their leisure, tune into one or the other. It's more comfortable for people depending on their scenarios.
And what is that difference? If I just kind of can interject. So I don't use your YouTube channel. If I go to your website and then I'm looking for meetings on demand, and that's how I'm using the search function on the website.
Right.
So why offer
So
those
really, well, definitely, because some of our viewers prefer to be watching on TV. They don't go to the YouTube channel. That's not going to be their preferred media.
Okay.
They don't know how. It's not comfortable for them to be watching that meeting on their TV. They want it on their computer.
Okay.
They want it on their TV, maybe in their family room where they can sit and watch and enjoy.
Popcorn.
And then you have other people who, maybe want to catch it during their lunch break when they're at work, and they need to bring it up on YouTube from the meeting 2 nights ago, that they can kind of sit there and zoom through and find the piece that they need. So we provide both of those now.
So to what extent is the YouTube offering also part of the challenge that you're seeing, in that YouTube is, it's internet based, and I don't know that it's even considered a streaming type service,
Sure.
but where people are like, I don't have cable. I've cut the cord and I have internet and I only want to kind of access it that way. So it's a
Right.
little bit of a double-edged sword, right?
Right.
That you're offering that, but
Well, that's the thing. So we do offer both, but we get our funding from the cable companies. So they're who pays for Westborough TV to exist. But we do offer both services in conjunction. And the challenge kind of for us is there's a whole another series of failure points. Because live TV, there are going to be failure points where, wait, what happened with the audio? Wait a minute, we just lost our signal.
Sure.
And that can happen on the cable side, and that can happen on the YouTube or streaming side.
Yeah.
And then we couple in with that, people have noticed, I'm sure, you might Zoom people into the meeting.
Yeah.
So now we need to Zoom someone into the meeting that needs to present. Oh, and by the way, they need to present. So they're presenting on their computer, and the people in the room have to see and hear what they're doing. And they have to be able to see see and hear what's going on in the room. And it starts to be pretty complicated.
Yeah.
And again, failure point, failure point, failure point. So there's troubleshooting that has to go on.
Yeah.
And again, it's all live. So on the fly, very different than what we were doing pre-pandemic.
Right.
So so while it's a great service for everyone, it certainly is a bigger job for us and a little more challenging. And my team does a great job, Jeff Poole and Aiden Horrigan, of handling those meetings for sure.
And they bail us out all the time. But I think what
And
it's
thank God
it-
we're taped,
but
because then
thank
they
God. That's right.
airbrush
That's
us and
they
they do all
airbrush us.
kinds of
Right.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Well, a little bit. It is
They
interesting
put on my
because
lip balm. They put on my lip balm. Yeah.
little powder.
Yeah.
But that is one of the things, by the way, in terms of how it all looks.
Mhm.
People notice on TV you're going to get a slight degradation because it's only low def versus on YouTube it's going to be high definition, and that has to do with the cable companies not having given us high def channels. And so right now we're on, channel 24, 26, and 28 in Verizon, and 191, 192, and 194 on Charter, but they're low def channels. So the quality is going to be better going on YouTube. We're hoping in this next round of negotiations they give us a high def channel, because one of the things is it looks, when people are watching from home, it's not as high quality as the other channels they watch. But it's not us. It's that the cable company won't give us a high def channel. If they gave us a high def channel, it would be beautiful, and you'd look even more lovely.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm pushing hard for that in our negotiations.
And I remember one of the cable people talking to me about this. It was because I do these shows in the person in Martha's Vineyard who was saying, he showed me the kind of the way this goes is that they're taping in high def, super duper, and then they send it to somebody who is actually paid by the cable company to reduce the quality, to turn it from a high def digital blah, blah, to what is it called, to whatever.
Yeah, well, you're just
there was
on a standard definition channel.
And then send it back.
They like squeeze it through the funnel.
Yeah, so that you
Nice
could replay it as a bad show, as like a poor quality. This is just astonishing. To me.
Right,
Astonishing
right.
to me.
So that's a lot about what we do for the government channel. And a really critical component of what we do. It's not those aren't optional. You can't say, oh, sorry, we missed the meeting. It just does. There's
that doesn't work.
there's no failure points, and no failures on those.
Karen, I know you've presented these numbers, but for our viewers, give them a sense of how many more, kind of height of pandemic, because I know things have been scaled back a little bit in terms of the numbers of meetings that you're taping and what committees and boards you're following. The percent increase, the magnitude of work that you guys have taken on.
Sure. So I know the numbers from 2019, we did about 120 meetings during 2019. And in 2020, we did almost 243 meetings that we covered. And then we'll be up and just closing in on 200 this year.
Wow.
So it still is, even though we've gone back to a little bit more of the pre-pandemic with people meeting more in person.
Sure.
And scaling back a little bit because people can meet in person. They don't have to have cable there to record and get it out.
Right.
But the extent to which we can cover meetings, we like to, because
Right.
you said there's this expectation now. People want to be able to see it, and we want them to be able to. We want that engagement, but we're limited by the staff we have.
Right.
I mean, there's just only so many things we can do. Because again, that's just the government piece.
Right.
So we've got the public and education piece as well. Plays a big part.
So can you tell us a little bit about that from your perspective, kind of going forward? In the ideal world, what does the station evolve to over the next 5 years? And obviously there are funding constraints, but once you know what the ideal world is, it's a lot easier to convince people that things need to get done.
Arthur has a checkbook in his jacket pocket.
Great. So if
there's
my
always
answer-
money follows good ideas.
That's perfect.
I've
So
lived by that.
If I have the right answer, that
right.
check.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
We'll have a big check presentation.
That's
You
right.
just don't know.
That's right.
This is great in front of our studio audience.
What'll I tell the folks at Myrick O'Connell about this?
Yeah, exactly.
They'll be delighted to know.
A couple things. So if we look at the public and education side of things, We do a lot with the schools, a lot with sports there. We probably could, again, we could do more. So people love that. We have hundreds, thousands. We had something like 4,000 people who watched the volleyball
Wow.
state finals that
No
we put
kidding.
out there. So people are watching that, and we have some of those sports have play-by-play people who volunteer to do play-by-play. Some of it is students, which is awesome. We could definitely do more of that, but again, we're limited by staff, which comes back to being limited in funding to make those things happen. So the other thing we do is we offer lots of camps for the kids. Again, just limited by how many staff we have to be able to do that.
Camps.
Yeah, so we have camps in the summer to introduce kids to video, and they love it. We haven't been able to have that because of the pandemic, but if we could have those every week, we get 10 kids in here and they fall in love with being able to tell a story. Right? That's what we're doing with video, is you're telling a story, and for them to learn and get in front of the camera and present, and the creativity side of it is amazing.
I suppose on both sides, to be able to present and also be able to know how to tape them,
How to
to
produce
be able
it,
to,
both sides.
how to produce,
edit,
Yep.
right?
whatever,
And
all
it,
that.
And we get them, they're 10, 11 years old. We get them out there on the edit stations, and they're creating their own, a day in the life of. They go around with a camera and they decide they're going to do a day in the life of Arthur's glasses. And the next thing you know, they've created this 2-minute video, and it's got all sorts of effects,
That's great.
and they love it.
Yeah.
And they've taken it from come up with the idea, take the camera, go film it, edit it, put it out there for all of us to see. So those are fun things we do. I love the education component. And then they come to the high school, and again, we do shows with them. They come in, they do anchoring, shows on the high school. If we go to the public side, we do all sorts of things for community organizations in town, different departments within the town, the DPW, we have a series with them, the fire department. And again, those are all things that we love doing. We do a very good job with, but I would say, again, we could do more of that if we had additional funding. I mean, it's me and Aiden and Jeff, along with, a few volunteers here or there, a couple of community producers. But ideally, we could be doing even more of what we're doing, but we have limitations there. And on the in terms of the funding piece, one of the things, we are funded by the cable companies, and so one of the things that we have kind of cooking right now for like what happens in the next 5 years is we need more funding, not only so we can do more, but also because our current funding is decreasing.
right.
And as people cut the cord and there are fewer subscribers, we receive less money. And so we've seen over the past couple of years about a 7% decrease in our finances. And I think that's where we've been looking for the state to enact some legislation to have streaming companies help fund local cable. Because again, we are offering it on cable and we are streaming. And a lot of times when someone cuts the cord, it doesn't mean they've given up on media.
Well,
It means they're going to cut the
They've
cord
added
from
Paramount
cable.
Plus, they've added Disney Plus, they've
And
added
they're going to go to a streaming a streaming service. And so we do have Senate Bill 2200 and House Bill 130 up at Beacon Hill right now. That's it's an entertainment streaming bill to have those companies pay a fee for the use of public rights of way.
Sure.
So, people talk about that being wireless. Well, it's not really wireless. There's, in order to get internet in your house, they're running the same
There are wires.
streams and wires to your house to get that to you. And so the cable companies have been paying to use those public rights of way for all these years. And the feeling is just that the streaming companies could do likewise. And so we're hoping that pushes through at the state level.
Because that's going to be a real challenge. Because if that doesn't happen, as you say, you've got a funding source that in some ways is behind the times, right? It's funding through a cable medium, that's not where we're going now, right? And so to be acknowledging that notion, because otherwise what you're facing is what everybody's facing. I'm on I'm on the board of Nantucket Cable TV.
Yes.
And so
They're great.
Do you have
Great.
to talk
They,
about
and
that?
they are terrific.
They are. They
terrific.
do some great.
Well, I have to
great
say
things
that
down
that
there.
way whenever I'm on Martha's Vineyard because
Yes.
they roll it. You know, this is one of the you know, from out here everybody thinks those two islands are like the same.
Yes.
They hate each
very
other.
different.
Hate the two places the worst.
A little bit
and
of competition, maybe.
and it all stems from the football game, the Island Cup. There's the
yeah.
Island Cup is like the Thanksgiving the
Oh,
game.
okay.
It's the game,
Okay.
right? We actually did I'm sorry, I digressed for a
It's
second,
all
but
right.
we did this as part of what we were doing. We actually produced a show on the history of the Island Cup.
Okay.
And so they were interviewing the coach from Nantucket
Okay.
before the Island Cup. The
Yes.
coach is asking the kids, now if you had the choice between winning the state championship and taking the Island Cup, what would you
I love
prefer?
that.
And they all start chanting, crush the grapes. The grapes is the Martha's Vineyard. Right?
That's
Crush
so
the grapes.
funny.
We're gonna
They
kill
were going to
them.
go that way.
Yeah, it was terrific.
That's
It was
That's
terrific.
great.
But
And I bet they cover that game.
oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah. Well, yeah,
There's some nice game
yeah,
coverage of that game every year.
it's outstanding.
Yeah,
It's outstanding. But the point is, you know, you've got this whole variety of things that just aren't going to be happening
Mhm.
if that's because unless towns start picking it up. And that's a whole other issue. I mean, the notion of going to town meeting and
Right.
trying to get right.
Right.
That's really, really hard, right?
Right.
So to try to find things that are really more directly connected to the cable system is like,
Yeah.
Right.
And so it is this interesting, I guess, dichotomy of, you know, cable is fading away in some aspects, and yet, you know, I mean, streaming services or, you know, viewership of something, watching a screen,
right,
to me is kind of gone through the roof,
Right.
right? And to Arthur's point about the print media just being, you know, a shriveled up industry, sadly.
Right.
And yet, how do you provide that transparency and engagement of, you know, again, kind of the passion side of me is, you know, the government side. I mean,
but what's so cool is that so many people are watching their little thing that the potential for engagement is higher than ever.
right,
You know,
Right,
how many
right,
people used to
right.
read the paper? A lot,
Right.
but not like a lot,
Right.
you know, whereas now everybody, and if
Sure.
you can see it live, you know, so the potential for this, right, which is what gets all the cable, gets you
Right.
really excited,
Right,
right?
absolutely.
There's such potential.
Well, and
for that.
I talked a little bit about, you know, what we need funding for and being able to increase what we're offering.
Sure.
But at the same time, you think, well, how are people consuming their media now? So the answer is sometimes podcasts. So then we need equipment to do podcasts, right? Or when we need to go live with things, and we're trying to go live from, you know, inside the hockey rink, and you're in this huge steel cement building. Well, how are you going to get that signal? Well, guess what? You need additional equipment. And so the technology piece and trying to keep up with that is always a challenge financially. And along with what we talk about with, you know, we were saying the HD factor, even to keep your cameras to the
Sure.
quality that you're going to need so that you can providing something that is, you know, acceptable and high quality for people. So I think that those are funding challenges for us as well moving forward.
So there's a ton of stuff.
There's
So-
a ton of stuff, and
so-
it's exciting.
So it kind of in the short run, in 2022, are you expecting any particular changes here? What are you kind of looking at? And
Right.
are you anticipating? How do you deal with all that government side, with that huge government side, given the fact that, as you say, there is now this expectation?
Absolutely.
Where is it? It's
Mhm.
got where I wanna
So
see this.
one thing we've worked a lot on in the second half of this year and into next year is the IT side of things.
Mhm.
So really beefing up what we have at the Forbes Building and at Town Hall, and also at the schools. We've just installed remote control cameras both in the gym and in the auditorium, and feeding those into a system where
What, do you have drones coming?
again, we're just going to fly over those winter concerts. But I did a winter concert last night, and I was able to, from our little closet control room up at the high school, do that show and flip back and forth between cameras. We have a
Wow.
switcher over there,
Yeah.
so you've got the close up, you've got the wide shot, you've got the lower thirds coming up with what's going
Wow.
on. But that all just requires a certain amount of funding and the
Well, and
skill
training and right
to
training.
put that
yeah,
in.
yeah.
So I think on this side we're going to be doing a lot in the studio. We've purchased
Yeah.
some new studio equipment, which is really exciting. And again, having those government facilities where we're doing government meetings, really kind of top notch in terms of the equipment we're using there to do the hybrid meetings. You know, when people say they have a hybrid meeting, it's the big smile here, like, all right, here we go.
Here we go.
And everybody is
Yeah.
going through it. I connect with a lot of local access across the state, and they're all in the mode of, you know, how are we best handling this,
Sure.
and kind of a lot of trial and error. So we're excited about 2022. I think it's probably going to look a lot like 2021 in terms of juggling
Yeah.
the number of things we have to juggle, and still dealing with some pandemic fallout, right?
Yeah.
Not sure it's
But
going
I think it's going to keep getting more interesting, you know, because you've got people like you who are across the state trying to figure this out at the local level. Because what most people don't realize regarding cable is that this is the only state where you have almost every community has its own cable station. I mean, it's just unheard of
Right.
in other places.
Right.
And the reason is, I think we're the only state where the state legislation says the money that is coming into the communities as a result of the cable stuff has to be spent on local access.
Right.
And so there was this whole evolution. I remember going to a regional organization, I can't remember the name of the community access, whatever,
mass access.
mass access. Well, no, this was the regional entity.
Oh, okay.
And it was in Portland.
Yeah.
So I drove to Portland, and here are all these people from Massachusetts. Like 80% of them were from Massachusetts. I was like, what is going on? And it's because we have all the stations.
Right. It's
And
really
so
big
and
here.
so this that's why I think, you know, while, you know, always when you've got legislation going through where you've got big players on the other side with money, you say, oh, I don't know, right? But in this case, it may be that because there's been so much connection to cable here, right? That
Yeah.
you may have a shot at really doing something.
So
you know?
I'm going to be the timekeeper today. We are just about up on time. Sorry, Arthur. I know you normally do it.
Yes.
Changing as we end the
Yes,
year.
we're trying. Yeah.
I want to thank
That is-
Karen for being our guest.
Thank you. Thanks for
Arthur,
having me.
Another great year.
Another great year. Another
I want to
great
thank
year.
Aiden behind the camera. Thank you,
Yay!
Aiden.
Terrific. Terrific.
For helping us through, making us look good, even when we have gaffes and everything
Yes.
else. But
And one of his many, his Frank and Mary on the Go, among other creations.
Oh, yes.
Aiden has just
Yeah.
done so much
Yeah.
for this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Excellent.
You know,
Absolutely.
and I think our ratings are going to go through the roof. So we will invite you back.
Yeah.
Probably next year.
Great. You know I
right?
love being on this side
There
of the
you go.
camera, so
All right.
thank you.
Yes, we can
Appreciate
tell.
it.
So, folks, as Shelby said, we obviously have a lot of fun doing this, right? As you can tell. We hope you folks have enjoyed the shows. And as Shelby has said, if you've got any suggestions for guests, we'd really like to know that.
Yeah.
If things get bad again, so that we think it would really be important to be really doing weekly updates, we'll go back to that, right? But in the meantime, to Shelby, thank you very much. Karen, happy holidays,
Yes.
Merry Christmas,
Yes.
Happy Hanukkah.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful year, and we'll see you all, or we will all see you in 2022. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Arthur.
Great.
great.
Great.